Hi, this is Kevin Deal from Upscale Audio, and today we're going to talk about the Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. No, this is not going to be about audio, at least not at the moment. This is normally a YouTube channel for Upscale Audio, and there is audio here. I have this is my man cave. This is my garage, and we just moved in, as you guys might know, and gals might know, about 6 months ago. And I wanted to have a nice garage, and I wanted to have a nice music room. And finally, I've got those things. So I do have my Tannoy Sterlings up there and an Evo 300 integrated and a DAC. And, you know, don't talk to me about no soundproofing in here and that you can hear echo. It's a garage, so please give me a break. So for those of you that know Upscale Audio, you know that I like to take amps apart and speakers apart to show you how things work. And sometimes I get in trouble with manufacturers because I call bullshit for some products, but I am known to try to tell it the way it is. You know, the truth about stuff. Because sometimes I think the press gets it wrong. And that's kind of what prompted this. You know, this is my Giulia Quadrifoglio. I've always been a gearhead, right? When I was 24 years old, I had a BMW 2002, and I had a little Porsche 914. And I followed that formula for many, many years. You know, when I first got Upscale Audio, where it was really taken off real well back in 2000, we started in 1995. After about 5 years, I had a Porsche 911, and I had a 2001 BMW E46 M3 in Laguna Seca Blue. Oh my God, I love that car so much with a 6-speed. I mean, it was so fun and so light and so tossable. It was exhilarating to drive. And then I went from that to an M5, and that thing was heavy, too heavy for me and too big for me, and the SMG transmission was a nightmare. Then I went to AMG cars. And AMG cars, they're just so comfortable and so well built and substantial. But you know what the problem is? They're not fun, really. I mean, they're fun if you gas it. Oh, you know, kind of a one-trick pony thing, though. You know what I'm saying by that? They just didn't have that thing that the BMW had. So I wanted to go back to a smaller car again. And I had a deposit on an M3. But before I picked it up, I said, you know what? That thing felt really, really stiff. It felt stiff. And I think I better go try it again. And I did. And I go, this is not happening. Because even in comfort mode, in California roads, it just wasn't acceptable to me. And so then I thought, well, you know, and then I thought about the Alfa Romeo, and I started researching that. And when I saw it, I absolutely fell in love with it. I fell in love with it. I think that this car looks so much better than the M3 did. I mean, it just has that thing that Italians are known for, right? But I started reading the press, like Jalopnik, and they were talking about the car and driver Giulia, and it had all these service nightmares. But I go, really? Well, I decided to go look at the service nightmares and then take a peek at what they were. And it was things like, I mean, they had some real issues, but they were, for the most part, the issues were software issues and a throttle body connector. That is what the problem was with the Giulia. Outside of that, they didn't have any real big deals. And in fact, then they continued to have more articles about how poor the reliability was. Then they did this one article, it was cracked me up. It goes, these are all the technical service bulletins that Fiat Chrysler has to fight with. And I looked and I go, how many TSBs were there? 11. And I go, all right, well, let's look up the 2017 Porsche Panamera. It had 284 technical service bulletins. And I looked at it, I go, well, does Jalopnik report anything bad about Porsche? So I looked up the GT3, you know, the 2014, the 991 GT3 had engine fires and they replaced all the engines. Nothing about it. I go, well, that's weird. Well, what about when the ones that they replaced had to get replaced again? Because that had happened, right? There were some of those that had to be replaced twice. They said nothing about that. And I go, well, wait a minute. Well, what about the GT4? The GT4 had a transmission problem where third gear would fail because they used a cheap some cheap gear in it, in the transmission. Nothing. Nothing. I go, man, somebody's on someone's payroll or something. I don't know if it's that. You know what I really think it is? I think it's laziness on the part of the writers. I mean, I really think that's it. It's like, oh, what are you going to write about? Oh, I'm going to do a thing about Alfa Romeo and Italian cars' dependability. Okay? Oh, well, don't forget to use that thing, remember? It's Fiat stands for fix it again, Terrence. Oh, no, that's not fix it again, Tony. Because like Tony is like an Italian guy name. You know what I'm saying? I have no idea what all of that is about. I know that it's patently unfair, and I know that this car has been perfect. It's been almost 3 years. It has been perfect. This is my Porsche 911 GTS. It has not been perfect. The PDK transmission failed at 9,877 miles, and it was in the shop for 6 months, or 6 weeks rather. The headlights had micro cracks. Those had to be replaced. That was another debacle. But it's not just that. I'm going to tell you something. I would not own a Porsche now, at least a modern one, without a service contract on it. And a lot of people feel the same way, especially if they have a PDK transmission. They have problems. I know when my car was in the shop, when my customers came in, he goes, I got a Turbo S. It failed 3 weeks after I got the car. I go, what? You got what I'm saying? It's bullshit. So what about this car? Well, let's break it down. Let's talk about parts and engineering. This has the ZF 8 HP transmission. That transmission is ubiquitous for high-end sports cars. It's used by Aston Martin. It's used by BMW in the M5. And in fact, the new BMW M3 coming out in 2021 is going to use the 8 HP. Why is that? Because it doesn't break. And it'll put up with big torque demands. And the drivability is amazing. And the shifting is fast. And they don't break. Go to the Giulia forums and look for people posting about transmission problems. Then go to Renlist and go look for people having problems with PDKs. Then you're going to know what I'm talking about. But what about the engine then? Is it dependable? Well, let's think about it. It's based on the Ferrari California T engine, and Ferrari knows how to design an engine. Ferraris are very dependable nowadays. Very dependable, very easy to live with. And this engine is a California T engine with 2 cylinders lopped off. It's a twin scroll turbo. It's a 90-degree V6, and that gives it a lower center of gravity. But it's not just that. It's the way that the turbos spool up. I mean, the way that it sounds and the way that it delivers torque is unfrickin' believable. There we go. Put it into manual. Here we go. That's going up a hill. Oh my God. And they don't have problems, not repeating mechanical problems. The 2017 car had software stuff and a throttle body connector. That was the big deal, right? But it's been fixed. In fact, if I was a guy that was a little short on cash, but I wanted to own a really bitchin' car, I would buy one of the Lemon Law buyback cars that Alfa Romeo had to buy back because they hadn't figured it out yet. I absolutely would. Not only that, I would trust driving it to New York greater than I would trust this. I shudder to say it. And I don't want to upset my Porsche friends out there. I don't. Because I love them. I own 2 of them now. See the sign on the wall? I'm not talking about Porsche being bad. I'm talking about Alfa Romeo being good, and that neither one of them are Toyotas or Hondas. If you want perfect dependability, get a Toyota or a Honda. Outside of that, you're not going to get it from Europe. That's for sure. So what is it about this car that just makes me so excited? Well, I'm going to tell you. It feels like it weighs nothing. I feel like I know right where the end of the hood is in the front and where the back of the car is. It just feels so small and tight, like my E46 BMW felt. But it feels even lighter than that, and it could be because there's less weight up on top. This hood is carbon fiber. The roof is carbon fiber. And then the drive shaft is also made of carbon fiber. And all of those things together make it feel like a car that is just super, super easy to toss around. If I was to say anything bad about this car, though, what would it be? Well, two things. Stereo system sucks. It works great. I think that the electronics are great. I like the entertainment system. The speakers suck, but I fixed that super easy with a JL Audio woofer in a box, and you can buy them for not a lot of money, and an amplifier, and then you need a little adapter, and I put a control knob right up by my right leg so I can dial in more or less bass, and that improved the mid-range and the bottom end, and now it sounds unbelievable, and it was so cheap to do. It also has an automatic start-stop button. Now you guys know what that is, right? When you come up to a stoplight, it shuts the engine off. And then when you let off the brake, the engine starts again. Well, on the Porsche, you have to activate that function to use it. It's activated automatically every time you start this car. So whenever I start the car, I have to push the button to turn it off. It's not a big deal, but it's just an annoyance. I think they had to do that, though, just to get past EPA stuff. I suspect that they needed to up their game for gas mileage in the United States. And I can get 28 miles to the gallon on the freeway with this thing because it shuts off 3 cylinders and it'll just cruise. But the thing is, it's got this really cool knob. I'm going to say something. It's got this thing called DNA. A is advanced efficiency, and that puts you into the highest gas mileage mode and the softest suspension. Natural stiffs it up just a little bit and makes the engine a little more pipey and more power available. D is for dynamic. That stiffens the suspension up more and opens the exhaust valves up. And then you can go to psychopath mode, also known as race mode. And it is an absolute joy. The noise that this thing puts out and the way that it feeds back into the cabin, it's not done artificially, it's natural noise. I mean, it's super, super quiet when you want it to be, but it's super exciting, when you want it to be. And the entire time, the suspension and the steering are the best I've ever experienced on any car I've owned, period. They all get old, right? I even had a Challenge Stradale once, and that car got old. And the thing about it was just so stiff, and the front end was too low, and this gives me this gives me more thrills than that car. More. I can take it up into the twisties and have more fun in this than anything else I've ever owned. But I can also just take a trip to Vegas and just cruise and have fun. I don't know. I still feel like washing it myself, and I do because I care for it that much. Every time I look at it, it excites me, and that's a real thrill. And again, if I was a person that was on a budget, I'd buy one of these that was a lemon law car. I mean, I would, because they've figured it out. So I think they've been treated very unfair, and I think that the consumer is the one that can laugh all the way to the bank. The other thing is that when people see this, they give you a thumbs up because you just don't see them every day. That's not why I buy a car. I buy a car for how it makes me feel and how I interact with it. And they talk about Alfas having that character. It's just like a tube stereo amplifier. People don't get it unless they have owned one. A test drive of this car does not tell you what the ownership experience is like. It's a tremendous amount of fun. If you need help with stereo stuff, give us a call. Upscale Audio. Nobody works on commission. We have the largest inventory of the cool stuff in the United States. My salespeople don't work on commission. We like to have a good time. We're not here to just slug. I mean, obviously, right? How much gear am I going to sell from talking about cars? I'm here to talk about having a good time, and I hope you folks are having a good time, and I hope you got something out of this. Thanks.